I'm still not 100% comfortable until all our investors have their cash back with profits and there's cash flow. At the end of the day, that's what I really care about. It's like we're providing a service to our investors. They're trusting us with their hard-earned money, and we have to make sure that we treat it like it's ours, or it's like my mom's, and that's what we do. Welcome to another episode of the Refined Real Estate Podcast. Manny here with my co-host Ian. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. This will be a cool one. We were supposed to have a guest, but because of technical errors, it didn't happen. But look forward to our first guest next week, and then we'll have many more guests in the coming weeks. I want to apologize for my room setup. This is going to be the new office. The room next door was my old office. Everything was set up nicely in there, but now we're both making nurseries, so everything's getting disrupted. But on that note, I want to remind you guys to please, if you enjoy this podcast and you want to support us, I ask just to please like on YouTube, leave a comment, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, same thing, just leave a comment. Or also, if you don't want to do any of that, if you just share our podcast to a friend, if you get any value from this podcast and you're like, wow, these guys are spitting out some good knowledge, if you share that knowledge to a friend of yours, then we'd be so grateful. So please do so if you enjoy our pod. On that note, Ian, how are you doing, man? How was the week?
Week has been good. Yeah, it's just crazy when the weather changes how fast these weeks fly by. So yeah, really got to set up your time to do those important things throughout the day. So, but yeah, no, definitely a very productive week. Again, we'll get into it a little bit more. Lots of good stuff with the 97 unit building. A lot of some updates on my portfolio here in Halifax that I'll get into, and then yeah, some rumors we've been hearing about our favorite subject, the Canadian government. All things that we'll dive into throughout the podcast. What about yourself? How's the week?
The week's been pretty good. It's sometimes just those weeks just get busy. Like this is one of those weeks, just like lots of calls in the afternoons, just like back to back to back, 4 or 5 hours, just on Zoom or Google Meets, whatever it may be. But that's a good thing in our world. That means we're staying busy, staying active. But besides that, everything else is going well. But yeah, we can jump right into it. Let's talk. So obviously, anyone that's been listening to our podcast the past few weeks, they know we have this 97 unit building under contract and just the process that we're going through. How about we update the listeners on what we have going on right now? You can talk about just the due diligence and the other things. I'll let you step in, and then I can just kind of fill some gaps.
Perfect. So yeah, so where we were since we last spoke on this subject, so we originally we got an agreement on our offer, so everyone was happy with all the terms, all that good stuff. Then it had to go to our lawyers. So our lawyers, the seller's lawyers, went back and forth on the agreement of purchase and sale. We finally came to an agreement on all of that, and we officially signed off. So we're full on 100% officially under contract on this deal. Next up is the due diligence phase. And again, there is quite a bit to this due diligence phase. It's similar to a single family home. You got to get your building inspector in there, except it's for a 100 unit building. So a lot more for in terms of like checking the roof, the boiler systems, the electrical, all that good stuff. So yeah, so what we've done is we're now actively shopping around the Cleveland area for an engineer firm that can come in and check over a lot of what we might have to check in on. So we're in the process of that. We also spent a good amount of time with our property management team. So we've now started our weekly meetings where it's just about the due diligence on the building. So our Canadian side, our GP side, is now actively chatting with our property managers, just confirming quotes, confirming projections for what we can get in rent, how fast we can get units turned, and we're just making sure that whole process lines up with what we're projecting on all of our underwriting. So we've gone over pretty much top to bottom all the numbers that are involved in this whole process, confirmed with our team with boots on the ground that our assumptions are accurate. So there's some things that, again, just having familiarity with in regards to how long things are going to take and what they're going to cost. So we used a lot of our previous knowledge from our current portfolio, inputted all that data into what our current projections are, and just got to a point that we're all comfortable with it. I will tell you that I am very, very stoked that we were able to start on some of these smaller buildings, which a year ago were very large buildings to us. But the fact that we can roll over a lot of our knowledge that we've obtained during the process on that and put it right into this like bigger deal, man, I think we would have missed the mark quite a bit if we had gone in with similar projections we went in on our first buildings. But now having that experience is, I feel just that much more confident with all of our projections on this deal.
No, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And one thing I wanted to mention, I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago, just how like lengthy this process is. But outside of like the length, some people, I'd like people to understand like the costs that are involved with this. When you buy a duplex or a triplex, there's some fees involved, of course, right? Your inspection, your fine. That's the biggest one I can think of, to be honest with you. Like how many, like the fees that we're spending to buy this building off the rip. So we $50,000 is our deposit just for the financing. It's $75,000 just for them to kind of start the process. So right off the
Good
rip,
faith
we're talking
deposit.
a good faith deposit of 75,000, and all this money I'm talking about, it's in USD. So add 35% on top for Canadian currency. But think about that. It's 125 grand that we have to have right away before we can even buy this building. Mind you, some of it is refundable, of course, but a good chunk of it's not, and that's just the kind of game you play in this space. You need to have some money. You need to have team members with money, because if you don't, it's very hard to make these types of deals work with financing and deposits if you're just don't have any cash. Even if you want to raise this money, cool. Like we're gonna do that, but like we need to have the money up front to front this, because if we don't, unless we have investors ready to go that trust us, trust our deal, and they give us the money up front, which is sweet too. If you have that set up, then you're in the clear. But I think it does show some good faith if the active team has some skin in the game. If they put a little bit of their own money up front, or even if they even put a little bit of money in the deal themselves, doesn't have to be a whole lot. I think I heard a podcast one time, and a GP operator in the States, he was saying his team likes to put 5% maybe of the total down payment themselves, just to kind of show the people that they have skin in the game. But yeah, we're willing to do that. We trust our deals. We know this is a sound deal, and we are definitely we got skin in the game. This is an awesome deal, and we're putting our time and our money and our effort into this, and this is going to be a cool one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, some money there. The other sort of non-refundable money is setting up our corporation. So we had to put a good chunk of money up for the legal side of things, and then we also had
Yeah,
to
the
put
legal
fifty
costs. I
thousand
forgot.
dollars. Yeah, yeah, and a $50,000 deposit on top of our good faith deposit for the lenders. So that's about another, $50,000 deposit USD, and called about 20,000 in our legal fees for setting up our Canadian side of things, setting up our US side of things. That's money that, again, like even if this deal doesn't work out, we can just have the corporation and a lot of the legal work, groundwork set up for the next purchase we make. So that's pretty good. So at this point, if the deal doesn't work, we're going to be out about 15,000 for the good faith deposit, and then we'll have spent money on our legal side, but that's not wasted money because if this building doesn't work out, we're going to go find another one to buy. So Yep. So that's been exciting. Rest of the due diligence. So again, when we bought this or looked to buy this deal, the lenders for this deal are actually the ones that are brokeraging the sale of the deal as well. So they had done a lot of the due diligence because they didn't want us to get this under contract and then be shocked that we had to do the roof or there was some elevator maintenance or the parapet wall or repointing the brick. Those are expensive items. We're talking like $500,000 for the parapets. We're talking $500,000 for the elevator. So it's these big ticket items that they wanted to get out in front of and just make sure that we're beyond aware that those are things that are going to have to be addressed. So kudos to our lenders for doing a good job on that. But we also had to do we still have to do a due diligence to make sure that there's no other big hidden items that are going to sink this deal. And we've been very conservative with our budget, leaving a good chunk of extra unknown funds to address some of these things that we might miss, that the engineer company might miss, that could be things that really need to get done. Like there could be a large plumbing issue or electrical issue or something like that. So we do have a good chunk of funds set aside for contingency, but it is still something that we want to know as much about this building before we officially sign off and buy it. So that's what we are in the process of. And also not just leaving it to the quoted prices that the brokers put together. We want to talk to the actual contractors that have given some of the quotes for, again, the roof, the elevators, all that good stuff. So we actually are well aware what needs to be done when doing this building. So yeah, it's a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, a lot of team meetings, a lot of just yeah, one step at a time, have a big list of things we got to do and just start checking things off that list.
No, absolutely. There's lots of moving parts. There's a saying in real estate. Trust but verify, and that's what we're doing with this due diligence. We trust our the brokers, obviously, but we need to verify their numbers, and sometimes even getting like multiple quotes on the same job. It's always a good idea. You can have different companies kind of bidding for your work, especially some of these jobs that we have here. These are big ticket items. We're talking $500,000 jobs. So a company to take that on would be awesome for them. So if we can have a couple of companies that are just bidding against each other, it'll bring the cost down. And anything that we can do to kind of reduce costs on this project will be huge. And that's a big thing that we're trying to work on. How can we reduce costs all across, the life of the deal? But still, be reasonable. We're not cheapskates. We know some things are going to cost money, and we need to provide good quality for our tenants, and we will do so. But if we can do it in a fiscally responsible and efficient manner, that's the way we have to do it, and that's good for our investors, and that's good for the team, and that's the route that we'll go on. And speaking of our team, I just wanted to just talk about one thing. I think we've talked about this in the past too, Ian. But like as the deals get bigger, the team gets bigger. We brought on three new team members on this one. Hopefully they'll. I'm sure Nate told me he'd be a guest on our pod sometime in the future. I'll hit him up. But then there's two other guys, Gary and Neil, and it's all about these types of partnerships that you can create in real estate. It's so important. I don't even know. I've said this a million times, but how important networking and relationships are. But like with the team that we have built here at Venture Co, and we all have different synergies, we all have different expertises. We are just setting ourselves up for like just an explosion. This is going to be such a great year. I was speaking to Nate the other day, and he's like, "Manny, this is just deal number one. This 97 with them. Obviously, this is the fourth deal for VentureCo, but like, and this will hopefully be the smallest and worst deal that we've done. So like the next deal, if this is going to be the smallest deal that we do with Nate and the crew, it's like imagine the next one. 150, 200 units, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but like a lot of the raising for this deal is underway, and it's going quite well. And what seems to be the case right now is funding's not going to be an issue for us, but it's deal flow. So finding more deals like this. Can you imagine having a team where all you need is deals and the money is there for you. Like that's like the my perfect world, to be honest with you. All we have to worry about is finding more deals and operating them. That is the sweetest thing I can think of. And that's what we've created with this team. And to say I'm excited is an understatement. And I can't wait to have those guys on our pod and they can tell you about their stories and their experiences. But it's looking real good right now. It's looking real good. And if you want to, well, you know what? I don't want to say anything else, but I don't want to jinx us. But everything's going real smooth right now until it's not. And when it's not, we'll tell you why it went sideways or what kind of hurdles that we had and how we overcame them.
Yeah, we could find out at any given time that like this building is just chock full of asbestos, or like, it's knob and tube throughout, or there's a fire. Like, there's a million ways that this deal could still fall apart. I mean, that's where we've been optimistic. We went down and checked it ourselves, but yeah, there's still a lot to overcome for getting this deal. But it's nice to know that. Where we're sitting right now, everything's looking quite optimistic. So yeah, I want to echo what you said there. Things are certainly looking good, but yeah, this is far from a done deal. This is far from a grand slam of a deal. This is far from a number of different things that could turn out well, but things are certainly trending in the right direction. So yeah, absolutely.
As excited as I get for deals, I learned along the way I don't get super excited until that refi check comes in and it's stabilized. you know, that's when you'll hear me like I'll have like a full sigh or relief. This was successful. I'm happy. Let's move on. Obviously we have to take the small wins along the way, but yeah, this is just starting. Even the other buildings there we have in the States, obviously we're farther along in the process. One of them is very close to that refi stage, so I'm excited about that one. But those other ones, it's like, okay, cool. I deep down in my gut, it's like, okay, I'm still not 100% comfortable until all our investors have their cash back with profits and there's cash flow, because that's what, at the end of the day, that's what I really care about. It's like we're providing a service to our investors. They're trusting us with their hard-earned money, and we have to make sure that we treat it like it's ours or it's like my mom's, and that's what we do. And yeah, but let me just pivot a little bit from that one. I'm gonna tell them about this little thing I saw, Ian, about the government, and I'll just want to I want to hear your thoughts about it. So before I say it, I want to just quickly say that this was a rumor that I saw on Twitter, and a lot of people shared it on Instagram. And since the government has denied it's true, but I've also heard that it was supposed to be a secret and it wasn't supposed to be put out there. But anyways, what it was is that the government was trying to implement a $25,000 exit penalty for Canadians that were trying to immigrate with an E. So like trying to leave the country and move somewhere else. So like if me and Ian wanted to go to the States, just ourselves, they'd charge us 25K a piece as an exit penalty on top of all of the taxes that are already there for exit taxes. And this is per family member. So if me, my wife, and let's say I have 2 kids in 5 years, we wanted to leave, that'd be 100 G's I'd have to pay up just to leave. Just to leave. And the reason that they're doing this, or they want to do this, or they're thinking about doing it, is because so many Canadians are leaving, because the living conditions here are getting so tough, because everything's expensive. Your mortgages, rent, food, utilities, everything, and the quality of life is going down for some people. And where do they do? They pivot and they find somewhere else to go. Like there are places in the States that obviously we see where, like Texas, just as an example, you'll see those houses in Texas that you can buy damn near mansions for like 500 grand. If you were to take that house and put it in Halifax, it'd be like 5 million. Or if you put it in Toronto or Vancouver, it'd be like 15 million. Just ridiculous prices, right? So there's a reason why Canadians are leaving. But so instead of dealing with that, they're just going to tax you more on your way out. Like that's nuts, man. What do you think about that, Ian? You ever?
Yeah. Oh man, the I never in my whole life had ever thought about like leaving Nova Scotia, like traveling and all that stuff, but like uprooting. Like again, I'm a family guy. I love seeing my parents, my siblings, all that stuff. So it was like, yeah, like as much as I hem and haw about it, but honestly, in the last like 2 months or so, it's like just the stuff that you see coming out, like this capital gains tax, the carbon tax, when that hit, that was the first time when I was like, what am I doing? Like, I could leave, I could move. Like, I have friends that I have, people that I follow on Instagram that, have like legit just like up and left, and like they look very happy. But again, like I've never really seriously considered it, but just where things are going these days, like, we've obviously uprooted a lot of our business. We were proud investors in right here in Halifax, and just where the way the laws have gone and everything else, it was just like, no, for us to actually grow and scale. So, part of us already have left. We're, not necessarily contributing to the economy now. If we had our 100 units in Cleveland up in here, it would obviously be providing more jobs and doing more stuff up here, but it just wouldn't work the way that we're operating down there. So back to the point. I want to say that I don't think that that's going to be true or that's going to happen, but like I thought the same thing for these carbon taxes. I thought the same thing about, rent caps and like all this stuff. Like, yeah, so like I wouldn't be surprised if it comes into play. And yeah, just like again, trying to trap more people to stay here, even though like the conditions are moving further away from what I guess most Canadians signed up for. So yeah, I think again, without being too political, I think I'll just be looking for the next election to see if things are going to change. So yeah, that would be my point on that.
Honestly, I'm the same thing. I'm a big family guy as well. My family's here. My wife's family's here. To uproot and just leave and go elsewhere, it would be very hard. It would there would have to be a certain level of wealth where I could bring everybody that I want along with me. That's really the only way I could see myself leaving the country at this time. But you're right though about us taking our investments and our entrepreneurial spirits down south of the border. If like you said, if we brought that 100, if we bought 100 units here, or this 97, so 200 odd units almost, and we were operating that here in Halifax, how many contractors, electricians, cleaners, there's so many jobs that we would be able to provide to the locals, but it's just impossible. It would be very hard to operate that kind of scale here, just starting off where we are right now. And besides even just like the real estate front, like how many business owners are just like, we're shutting shit down here, we're taking everything down to the States or abroad or anywhere else where taxes are more reasonable and business friendly. Um, yeah, we're in a weird spot. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope. You know what? I don't want to talk too much about. But what? You want to hear something funny? Actually, side note. I made some TikToks. People will enjoy this. I made some TikToks talking, poorly about our PM. I won't say any names. I'm sure AI is listening, but somehow my mom came across them, and she got so upset with me. She's like, she told me to stop it because I don't know. He might come after me personally. I'm like, Mom, how would the leader of our country see some random guy's TikToks? I got 300 followers on it. But anyways, she got so upset with me that I listened to her and I stopped. I don't make any more TikToks talking about JT, and so I'll just talk about it on our podcast. But I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything negative. I'm not saying anything too negative about him as a person. I'm just talking about how the country's being run. And of course, he's the leader of it. So I wish he would just run it a little bit more efficiently, a little bit better. If he ran the country very well, everyone would be happy. It's like we love the guy and we'd vote for him, and then we'd ask him to stay prime minister forever. Um, but that's just not the way it seems to be transpiring at the moment. Yeah, um, and hopefully it gets better. We'll see. But yeah, it's weird times. Weird times we're living in.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I guess we'll finish off with some good news. So you said earlier you're not really that happy until the refinance is done and investors are paid off, and everyone's happy and there's a little bit of cash flow and all that good stuff. I can say that Janelle and myself, we just pulled that feat off earlier this week. We actually, on our Catherine Street 8 unit building, we just successfully completed, and a big round of applause to Janelle. She took the main lead on this for the refinance. After I want to say about 4 or 5 months, we just completed our first CMHC refinance. So we again bought a 8 unit building. We turned all the units. We renovated all the units except for one that's still remaining. But on an asset we purchased for about 600 and off the top of my head, I think about 650 or so. We just finished our refinance, and we actually pulled out about $625,000 out of that property, which is damn near perfect burr. We got so on our other building, when we refinanced that, we didn't do a CMHC refinance, so it was not a perfect burr on that one. But we were able to pull out so much funds on this one that when we have the same investor for both, that we were actually able to repay all the money that was spent on our Catherine Street building. Plus, we were able to repay the remaining funds that were trapped on our other refinance until we go to CMHC on that one. We were able to keep in reserves enough to finish all the renovations. So we're going to redo the roof, some of the siding, that last remaining unit, and then we were all able to split about $100,000 on top of repaying all the money on that, all the remaining money on Herring Cove, and keep money in for the rest of the renovations on that project. We're now also still going to be able to cash flow somewhere in the ballpark of about $2,000 per month. So yeah, it was a good week when it comes to our Catherine Street project. So again, thank you so much, Janelle, for taking point on all the refinance stuff. And yeah, I know I've got a very happy investor seeing that we weren't just throwing random numbers around, but we actually went through a successful refinance. That investor on 2 of our 8 unit buildings is now 100% paid back, and we're cash flowing. So a good day, a good week, a good few. That was the better part of 2 years to get us to that point. But here we are. So
And
now it's
it's been a long 2 years for Catherine Street. I remember, Ian. I remember you guys were so close to selling. I'm sure, obviously, you're well aware, and that like the tenants, the
yep.
trouble you had with these tenants, which is what like led to the frustration of you wanting to sell it. But this has been a huge success. Huge success. You overcome those struggles. People don't understand, the trials and tribulations that investors go through, especially you guys on this deal. How tough it was to get it to this point, and getting it here must be. Oh, I know that feeling, and I'm sure it must be just amazing.
Yeah. No. So again, congrats to everyone involved. And yeah, it's just again, we've been doing this a while now. We know that the things that we're preaching, the things that we're talking about, like they will work. And some days it doesn't seem like you're going to get to that point, but yeah, we had a plan, we executed it, and we got pretty much exactly the plan worked out. Timelines may have changed a little bit, but ultimately, it's just another proof of concept. And I very much so look forward to the day when we're sitting here talking about this for all of our US buildings. Because again, like right now, we don't have proof of concept down there. Like, yes, we're buying, we're renovating, we're hitting and surpassing a lot of our targets. But like you said, until that day where we get this check in hand, get to pay back our investors and get to start sitting back and collecting some of that cash flow, there's always a shadow of a doubt in the back of your head. Again, we've got a lot of good operators. We got a good team. Very optimistic, but until that day actually hits, like who knows, rates might skyrocket again in 2 years because there's another COVID outbreak, or like you just never know that there's all these other external factors. We could have a war on our hands. We could have, well, God knows what. But until we actually hit that day and hit these targets, yeah, we just got to keep grinding and make sure that we're well on our way. So, but yes, a big win back here, and yeah, it just continues to build that belief that we're onto something down south of the border, and just want to keep rolling into that.
Absolutely. And on that note, on that great win, we'll wrap it up. So I want to thank everybody again for listening to another episode of the Refined Real Estate Podcast with Manny and Ian here. Last time for this episode anyway, I'm going to ask you guys to please like and subscribe, share this with your friends, and yeah, see you guys next week.